So, guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So, guys, Carl Froch, this man has been inducted into the Hall of Fame. A very controversial figure. I don't know. Obviously, I think Americans obviously know who he is. True boxing fans, all of you know who Carl Froch is. But Carl Froch in his time has made some very interesting comments. He's a very controversial kind of figure, especially here in the UK. He makes a lot of sarcastic, backhanded, he makes a lot of weird comments. Does Carl Froch? Although I think his resume and his boxing career needs to be respected. He's done a lot in the game. I think he was a warrior, tough man. A lot of fans seem to think even with what he's achieved, he comes across a bit delusional, says a lot of things. I think sometimes the British public probably don't give him his credit because him and Joe Calzaghe didn't have a good relationship, and Joe Calzaghe was very loved by the UK public, and Froch probably not so much. Even though I think most people now give him the respect of being a warrior and obviously a good fighter. But he's made some comments in his time. I want to talk about I'm going to talk about two topics about Carl Froch. One, I want to talk about comment that Carl Froch made, and someone's actually mentioned this to me on Instagram. And I actually was going to do a video on this a while ago, but I didn't. And also basically about Carl Froch talking about, him being too big and too strong for GGG and Canelo. Also, someone's messaged me recently or just today. The reason why I thought I'd make a two-part video is the fact that Carl Froch made some comments on a video apparently, stating that he got a lot of satisfaction seeing Kell Brook batter Amir Khan. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. But first, I'll come on to Carl Froch's comments about him being too big, too strong for GGG. I think he said that a while ago, and I think he's always had the fact that at super middleweight he would have beaten Canelo, he would have beaten Golovkin, because he was just too big and too strong for those guys. Firstly, I want to look down Carl Froch's resume. And, he beat likes of Jermaine Taylor, Andre Durrell, Abute. He beat Kessler. He beat Groves. He beat some good, solid fighters in his time. He's got a very, very good resume. Probably one of the best British resumes in the last 20, 30 years. Without question. I think his resume needs to be respected. I think he needs to be respected as a fighter without question. I think Froch did a lot. But some of his comments about GG and Canelo being too big and too strong. Firstly, Carl Froch wasn't that much bigger than Canelo, and then Caleb Plant is probably bigger than Carl Froch. Maybe I think they might be the same height. Caleb Plant's probably the same kind of stature. Benavidez and guys like that are way bigger than Carl Froch. Carl Froch was like 6 foot, 6'1". Golovkin was what, 5'9", 5'10". Canelo's like 5'8", 5'9". That height difference doesn't make that much of a difference. In terms of size, Carl Froch wasn't that big a guy. If you look at his physique, he was pretty slimline. He wasn't like a thick set. Canelo is actually quite a thick set. So is Golovkin. Even though Golovkin don't look it, he looks quite slim. He's quite heavy boned and very dense. His bones seem very dense. Hence why he's got so much power in his shots. Canelo as well. Canelo's built like a house. So although people may think height doesn't make you bigger, Canelo's neck is massive. His body he's a massive guy. Don't get fooled by his height. Canelo is a big guy. He fills into super middleweight easy. He's a big guy. I do think that super middleweight is probably, I think that's probably the best weight class for Canelo in terms of the best he can be at. I think anything above super middleweight, I think Canelo starts to look a bit slow, a bit flat. And I don't think he looks as good, to be honest. The weight classes above that, I think super middleweight is probably the furthest Canelo can go looking at his best. And I personally think that if Carl Froch fought Canelo or Golovkin, I think Carl Froch gets beaten pretty badly. And I'll give you my reasons why. Not because I don't think Froch was a good fighter. And people are going to say, oh, well, you're only saying that because you like Khan and Froch. No. I'm saying this, but you're going to say that because Froch has beef with Khan and you're a Khan fan or whatever. No. I really respect Carl Froch. I don't really care what his beef is with Khan, because that doesn't really impact my opinion of him as a fighter. You know, my opinion of his fighter, I think he was a very good fighter, had a very solid career. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame in terms of his resume. I think he had some great attributes. I think he had a great engine. I think he had a great chin. I think he had a will to win. But what I will say is this: I'd say that Golovkin and Canelo are both better boxers. I think they both have better skills. I think Carl Froch would have struggled, and I generally mean this with Carl Froch. I think he was pretty flat-footed. I don't think he had great footwork. I don't think he had the fastest hands. I think he would have struggled to land on Canelo. I genuinely believe that. I think he would have landed, but I don't think he would have landed as frequently. I think Canelo would have made him miss. I think he would have counterpunted. I think he would have hit him with a lot of shots. Um, I'd even go as far as saying that Golovkin and Canelo, especially Golovkin, right? If there's anyone that would have stopped Froch, and Froch had one of the best chins, it would have probably been both those guys, Canelo and Golovkin. Golovkin especially, because Golovkin in his prime was such a deadly pressure fighter, and I don't think Froch would have had the power to really hurt Golovkin or stop Golovkin in his tracks, because Golovkin's chin was literally granite. And let's not forget, Golovkin's never even been down in his career. He's never even been wobbled in his career, and Froch has been hurt badly. I mean, he's been put down by Taylor. He got put down by Groves. So this is a guy that has hit the canvas, whereas guys like Canelo and Golovkin have never hit the canvas. And Canelo has fought guys like Kovalev, who I believe would have stopped Froch. If Froch had fought a prime Kovalev, I believe that Kovalev would have stopped Froch, because I think Froch was defensively too open, and I think someone as good a boxer as Kovalev would have, in my opinion, stopped him. And hence why I don't think Froch went up to light heavyweight, because I think he knew that those guys would have been too, Stevenson and Kovalev may have been too much for him. Saying that, I think Golovkin would, in my opinion, would walk Froch down. He'd walk Froch down. I think he could out jab Froch. I think he would hit Froch constantly, and I think Froch would hit Golovkin. I think Golovkin's defense isn't the greatest. There's not a lot of head movement, but I don't think Froch would hurt Golovkin, and that's the problem. I don't think Froch hits hard enough, to really tittle Gennady Golovkin, and that's why I think Golovkin would have beaten Froch. I think Golovkin would have walked Froch down, and I think he would have beat him up. And like I said, I think stylistically, if there was anyone going to stop Froch, it was Golovkin, because I think Golovkin would really take Froch to places where he never was in his career, even where places like Kessler, because I think Kessler was a similar kind of fighter to Froch. Golovkin, these are very, very skilled pressure fighters, very, very skilled fighter, especially in his prime. He was very, very good, very, very good, and I think he would have given Froch a beat down, to be honest with you. I don't think Froch would have been able to handle Golovkin. Canelo, I think Canelo would have probably beaten Froch on points. I think he would have outboxed Froch. I don't think Froch would have. I think Froch would have had trouble landing on him, just like he did with Ward. I think Froch after the Ward fight said, "I couldn't hit him." I think he would have a similar problem after a couple of rounds with Canelo, where I don't think he'd be able to land. I think Froch isn't fast enough, and again, I don't think he has good enough feet to really give Canelo. I honestly, and I'll say this, I actually think Callum Smith would have given Froch trouble. I think Callum Smith is a very tall guy. I think Callum Smith is a very technically sound fighter. And I think he would have given Froch a lot of trouble. And most importantly, I think Callum Smith has a good engine. And I think Callum Smith's got a good chin. I think that would have been a very difficult fight. I actually think a lot of people think James DeGale would have given Froch trouble. I don't think so. I think DeGale faded later on. And I think Froch would have beaten DeGale, probably by late stoppage. But I think Callum Smith would have probably given Froch a lot of trouble. I think Callum Smith may have even beaten Froch. Because I think Callum Smith was a technically very sound fighter, and he was bigger than Froch. I think physically and taller, and I think he had better skills. So I think that would have been a very hard fight for Froch. Obviously, I think Smith was probably a bit too early on, for that fight to really be talked about and be made. But I honestly think that would have been a tough fight for Froch. I think Froch would have probably always beaten Groves and De Gale, just because I think both of them had some kind of stamina issues later on in fights. And I think Froch, if you have stamina issues, I think Froch is going to get you late on. But I think Smith would have been a problem. And I think Canelo and Golovkin, even though Canelo, you could say, has stamina issues, but I think the difference in skill between Canelo and Froch was so severe that I don't think Canelo would have been really troubled by Froch, where Froch would have been able to put pressure on Canelo, where his stamina would have faltered. And same with Golovkin. I think Golovkin never had stamina issues. I think Golovkin was a beast. I think Golovkin stylistically was a horrible fight for Froch, and I think Canelo would have just been too skilled, and I think Froch would have struggled to really land on Canelo. I think Froch would have really struggled. I think Canelo's upper body movement would have been just too much. His movement is yeah. I think Froch would have struggled to land. So yeah, I do think that Canelo would have beaten Froch, and I think Golovkin would have beaten Froch. Coming on to the Khan stuff, Carl Froch, mentioning that he got a lot of satisfaction. Look, I think it's quite obvious that Carl Froch had a good relationship with Kell Brook throughout his career, and him and Khan didn't really see eye to eye. It never seemed Froch was ever complimentary of Khan, even when he was kind of like, he always used to compliment him and then give him then say something to to slate him. I don't know what the beef is between the two. I don't know what the problem is. You hear rumors online on my YouTube videos. I heard it over the years, but I actually think for a guy like Carl Froch, who's achieved that much, who's done so much in the game, now being inducted into the Hall of Fame, for him to continue to make comments about Amir Khan. I mean, especially when you're accomplished and he's obviously a wealthy guy, it just seems very bizarre to me. It seems very bizarre that Froch would continue to talk down Khan. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, because I can't really put my finger on why Froch would continue to hate on Khan. I thought now that Khan would have retired, he wouldn't really go there. But it seems like Carl Froch gets satisfaction out of kind of making or taking digs at Khan, which I don't think. And to be honest with you, I think throughout his career, I think Khan has taken digs back at Froch, but that's only in retaliation. I don't think Khan really thinks or talks about Froch. I don't think he really cares about Froch. Whereas I think Froch, I can't really say the same for Froch. I think Froch likes to take digs at Khan. I remember once there was an interview that he was doing with Fight Hype, and the conversation had nothing to do with Amir Khan, and he just brought Amir Khan up from a random, and even the reporter, Sean, I think Vettel, the guy that, does he own Fight Hype? I don't know whether he owns it or he works for them. I don't know what it is, the guy, I don't know what his role is in the company, but even he was shocked to why this guy randomly brought up Khan. Like, why has he randomly brought up Amir Khan? Just out of thin air, he said, "Oh, look, Khan got sparked. This, that, the other." Something. He randomly just brought up Amir Khan, and he said, "I had to throw that one in there." And even the reporter was kind of stunned. Like, what's he talking about? So and probably a lot of the Fight Hype has a lot of American audience. Even they probably wouldn't know, because they probably won't know about the beef that Froch and Khan have. But yeah, I found it very bizarre. I find his bitterness towards Amir Khan very bizarre. I don't know what it is, because to be honest, you just don't know. I mean, it just seems really bizarre and weird. I don't know why he does it. I don't know whether he gets satisfaction out of bringing him down. I mean, and the bitterness has been there throughout Amir's career. It's not like when it started because of an incident. When Amir Khan turned pro, when Amir Khan got knocked out by Brady Prescott, Froch said that without writing Amir Khan off, I don't think he's going to go on to become a world champion, and I don't think he's going to have that successful a career as a pro. And I found that weird at the time, but I didn't make much of it. And then afterwards, you could clearly see throughout his career and throughout Amir Khan, when he would lose a fight or something would happen, Froch would always make some negative comments. I remember when that was right at the start of his career, when he said Khan won't become a world champion. Then afterwards, when Khan won a world title, I remember he did an interview with a guy, and he said that, look at, there's guys that were had Olympic success like Amir Khan and Audley Harrison that completely failed as pros. And even the reporter again questioned him and questioned Froch and said, Amir Khan, a guy that was a unified world champion, you're saying he's not had a successful career, beating so many champs. I mean, and then Carl Froch out of like was shocked that the reporter was coming back at him, and he said, oh, you were a Khan fan then? And literally trying to make out like what the reporter was saying was because he's a Khan fan, rather than him just pointing out the truth that Amir Khan's actually had a very successful pro career. And and then when Khan came back, he said Khan's back for a paycheck, which probably was true. But at the end of the day, I mean, just some of the comments that he's made about Khan throughout his career clearly shows that Carl Froch obviously had some kind of issue, some kind of bitterness towards him. And I don't doubt him when he says that he got a lot of satisfaction. I believe he did. I believe he did get a lot of satisfaction from that fight. And I think if Khan had won that fight, that probably wouldn't have sat well with Froch. So I think Froch got a lot of satisfaction out of that 100%. And I think Froch's comments after the fight in Sky Sports, even though I don't think he was wrong with what he was saying about how shocked Khan was and stuff, but I think he was saying it out of, like, you know how when someone's trying to, not degrade, what's the word I'm looking for? Someone's trying to, rub salt into the wounds of Khan when he's down. I think Froch was trying to, trying to rub further salt in the wounds of Khan when he had been beat, which you could clearly see he was taking a lot of satisfaction in making the comments that he was saying. Then the week after, I remember Khan was at, not a week after, maybe a couple of months after, Khan was at the Ben fight, and they were talking about Khan fighting Ben, which I was totally against because, Khan at that point was so badly past his best. And Froch said that, Khan's only good for getting knocked out. Again, another comment, and Bellew was sitting next to him, and Bellew said, you can't be saying that about people, you know what I mean? And so even Bellew was shocked that Froch said it. But that's Carl Froch, and these are just some of the points that I've noticed with Carl Froch. Now, some may say, oh, he's being honest. Some may say, look, you clearly see he's bitter. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is, because it just seems really bizarre and weird for me that a guy as successful as Froch will be bitter towards anyone or come across bitter towards another fighter. And recently someone's pointed out that Carl Froch is actually going the same way with Anthony Joshua. He was asked a question about Anthony Joshua, and he didn't respond. He said, I'm not interested in Anthony Joshua. Now, is that because the fact that he had a relationship with Robert McCracken and Joshua left Robert McCracken? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like Carl Froch is now going the same way with AJ as well. So yeah, I don't know. He's just a weird character. Although he was a great fighter, he definitely, is a bit of a strange guy. Probably, I don't know why he does it. But anyway, I want you guys to leave your opinions to what you think about some of the comments that Carl Froch makes. What do you think about this video? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.